So to Sales Chatter. And you know what? Today, we're going to talk about entering the mind of the customer where that conversation's already happening.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Jeffrey.
Hey, Dan, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, good. It's good. It's good. It's nice to be here with you, brother. It's nice to be in the conversation again this morning. And good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa.
Don't know how much talking I'll be doing, but it's awesome to be here. I've got to really limit my voice. It's coming back, as you can see. Some of you might be like, "It's what?" But but it is coming back, and just got to limit it. But something that I'll kind of start it off, Jeff, and just kind of let you take the conversation away. Something that's been very apparent recently, and I've been probably at more meetings and client conversations in the last couple of weeks than I have been in probably the last 6 months. And when we enter the conversation that's already happening in our client's head, it's ruled kind of like 101 with copywriting is how do you enter the conversation in your prospect's head that's already going on? Brother, I am finding results coming from every single angle that we have in a sales meeting. And I was at one recently where I was sitting down with the customer. And it was, probably about 3 weeks ago. And I knew it was just before my throat was going to get sore and things were going to happen and I probably wasn't going to be available. And I said to him, here's a question I have for you. And here's a question, for all you salespeople to really engage your customer. I hear things all the time. I see these data points all the time. And this is a flatbed company. I could tell you about how flatbed rates are stagnant, how they're 30% year over year. Some lanes are 22. I said, but none of that really matters until I fully understand what the problems you're specifically facing. So if you wouldn't mind, instead of me assuming I know what it is, would you take 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and just tell me what are the deep-rooted issues you're seeing?
Absolutely.
And I never really took that approach before. I was like, are you having these problems? I've heard of people. It's like, but just giving the full open floor. And he says, I've been thinking about this all morning. And immediately I went, I'm entering the conversation where he's leaving it.
Right.
And he says, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. And he goes, it's not really a problem. It's like a glitch here. And then it runs well for 2 weeks. Then it's a glitch here. Then I have headaches for 2 weeks. And it's a glitch here. And let him lay it out. And he probably took about 10 minutes to lay it out. And I was like, okay. And it was nothing like what I had assumed were his issues. You ever been in that situation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's all part of laying out the groundwork of the conversation, right? It's the exploratory part of that relationship where they're trying to find out more about you and you're trying to find out more about them. So they are preparing before you even walk into that room. They're like, okay, let's make this meeting beneficial for us. Let's start thinking about the questions we're going to ask Dan, or myself or whomever out there, right? And that's part of the engagement process. But also you have to think about the questions that you're going to ask them by identifying them, by researching that company, researching that person, see where they came from, what the company is all about, because you may have a good feeling about it, but not no two companies are the same, right? I mean, they work opposite from each other. Some might be in the same on the same road, traveling at the same speed, but you don't know that until you ask those questions. So, yes, by all means, that has happened to me, and it's how you answer that. But it also opens up the doors to other bigger opportunities as well.
And it's not even a oh, good morning, my friend. How you doing? It's not even that research piece. What I'm meaning by it was I opened the floor right? So
Right.
set the question with context and open the floor. You know, I could state to you all of the data. I could
Yeah.
tell you what the market says. I could tell you all of this. But what are you experiencing as the whole entity that I'm focusing 100% of my attention on right now? What are you experiencing? And I love the fact that you said everybody experiences a different. See, for years I thought if this company is going to have that problem, that company is going to have that problem. They
Yeah.
might, they might,
Yeah.
but that's assuming over listening and understanding. And I can tell you, this company that has, you know, a $45 million transportation budget,
Nice
they were
size.
having problems like like a company that had $100,000 transportation budget. Like the budgets no longer make ease where you can say to a carrier, okay, I'll buy all your capacity and I'll give you 100% per year. It came down to drivers wanting to work. Um, certain drivers want to work, certain drivers don't want to work. Certain companies have people that will dispatch 24/7. Certain companies don't. Like there was small little things that made the big difference.
Yeah.
And for me, it and I know some of you out there might be like, well, that's pretty normal in today's market. For me, it blew me away because normally it was, you know, through COVID, it was capacity, it was cost, it was like none of that
All
came
the
up.
above. Yeah.
Yeah, it went more to that individual phase of the client need and the client saying, you know what would be really, really good is this. Like if you were able to do this, that would be cool. And it was a shock to me because normally, when you think about it, if you walk into a company that does 45 million in freight, traffic managers aren't usually at the point where they're like, here's my issues, because it makes them look bad. They're going to be like, well, I'm good. Like, what
They're
can you do
protecting their
for
position.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What can you do for me? Not,
Mhm.
okay, here's kind of really what I'm looking at. And I find traffic managers, as tough as it is, so in preparation for today, I actually connected with a bunch of people I know in the industry and asked them, like, how are your cold calls today? And I've got one buddy who had a great book of business, left the company because of political reasons, and is starting from scratch. And he said, Dan, it has never been harder to cold call. He goes, like, I don't know what's happening, but he goes, I'm having the toughest time. And it's funny because the next guy's like, cold calling is no problem. It's so easy to connect. He goes, it's a closing that I'm having problems with. And these are people that are 15 plus years in the industry, Jeff, not new people. So it's interesting how one's having an issue on the first side, like this initial side of the spectrum, and the other one's all the way on the last side, just can't close a deal. And it started getting me thinking and saying, okay, so because you know me, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
these things come up in my head. I'm like, okay, there's got to be a solution to this mathematical problem.
Always.
Um, but it's like you stop and think to yourself, okay, so you get past the open, right? You get past the initial cold call. All sales is just a next step in the process. And once you solve one area, its logical next step is the next and next,
Right.
which eventually hopefully leads to the close. Now, in any one of those given areas, we can lose because we might be 20% higher and we can't get the budget to mark it down, or we might not be able to serve the customer and the needs that they want for what they're looking to spend. Like there's all these variables, right?
Right.
But sales in general is just a next logical step progression. And it was interesting to talk to them all because it's like if you didn't I mean, how do I say this correctly? If you didn't sit back and say to yourself, okay, like how does this progressively move forward? It becomes almost like a clusterfuck. But it's every company is having similar but so unique problems.
Yeah.
And I,
Yep.
I think it's a matter of now more than ever finding that niche and
Absolutely.
finding that one position that you're able to solve and starting that conversation there. And if that customer is
Yeah.
not already having that conversation, you just move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And to go back to what you said about um, one of your friends said, "Oh, cold calling is so difficult," and then there's another sales guy that says quite the opposite. Now, logically, the way I look at it is, it really depends on the individual that you're calling at that specific company. Okay, that
Mhm.
traffic manager, he's probably been in the position for a long time, but he's under extreme duress, pressure every single day, unlike the other ones. And he just doesn't want to deal with salespeople. Some of them are like that, which opens up doors. If you think about it, why are they under pressure? Why are they having all this? It's uncovering those issues that you were trying to say before. And once those are identified, and then you start honing into those issues, those problems, whatever, and then you can start escalating it and moving into other areas once you bring the solution and the resolution to those problems up front, making the guy look like a hero, and not make him feel like he's getting threatened. A lot of them, you got the gatekeepers out there. They don't want to talk to you. The traffic managers don't want to talk to you because they're afraid you're going to take their position. And why do they need me if I bring you in there and you start killing it, So there's a lot of different problems that you're facing there. And I've heard it before, when I was actually working on the operation side and everything. I get killed with all these calls and all this kind of stuff. And, they're talking to the VPs, and they go over my head, they go up. Has it happened to me? No, it really never happened to me, but I've heard it from other people. So there's just a lot of issues, especially on the cold calling side, Dan, that, people are in the protective mode, especially now in the economy, because people need their jobs. They've got a lot of pressure. They got bills, they got mortgages, they got, you name it, right? They just don't want to take that leap of faith right now into the unknown and think this guy could take my job if he kills it. So there are a lot of different problems out there, my friend, and I know you know
So
it as well.
and here's yeah, for sure. And here's where I come from now is, you said a few things that really struck home. Number one, they've had a lot of salespeople waste their time. They're kind of, hesitant on salespeople, not necessarily to take their job, but it's like, oh, here we go. I spend, weeks with this person, bring them in, makes me look like an idiot.
Yeah.
However, I go back to what I said. You find that one specific area.
Yes.
Mr. Prospect, I help my customers achieve X, Y, and Z through A, B, and C. Is that where you're at in your business today?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I needed X, Y, and Z, I'd say yes. And it's something that Catherine Hollingsworth shared with me. She said, imagine this, Dad. Imagine you're sitting at home and a salesperson knocks on the door. And he says, "Hey, I'm here to sell you paint." And you just painted your house. You wouldn't need it. But
Oh,
say that person knocks on the door, you get up, you trip, a lamp falls and hits your kid in the head and it cuts their head open. And everything's in chaos. And you open the door and the person says, "Hey, I sell first aid kits." You'd be like, "I
boom.
want one." Right?
Yep. Yeah.
So that's entering the conversation at what's going on in the customer's mind.
Right. Finding the
And
need.
so, yeah, I believe, and again, you said something that was really interesting. You said, having the conversation and digging deep. To have that conversation and dig deep, most of the time, most traffic managers aren't interested because they've dug deep with so many people that have let them down or never been able to come up with a solution. I've heard it a million times. I've
Sure.
had calls like this all the time. So start with the shovel in the ground.
Yeah.
Start where you would at 3 feet down in the conversation. I
Yep.
help XYZ get results with ABC or something to that nature. And I
Mhm.
do believe if you do that consistently, you'll find not only the right customers, but you'll have better conversations with people
Oh
that
yeah,
you're entering the conversation where they are. And I think that is so key in a sales environment like what we're facing now.
definitely.
Increased pressure from everybody to get results, increased pressure for productivity, increased everything, hours, no extra pay, all this kind of stuff. And I think it would be a killer position for any salesperson. We
Yeah,
got some we got some comments here. So Adela, how you doing, brother? How do you get the link to a bridge to enter the conversation? So to answer this, Lisa actually answered it pretty good. It depends on the approach, all about the approach. Again,
yes,
we just said it. I think if you enter the conversation where they are, so big, what is your big thing that you help customers solve? And if you don't know, go speak to people in your company. What do they do? And come up with that. That's the bridge. Do you need a professional to help you with X, Y, and Z? That's what I specialize in. If the answer is no, move on.
move on.
There's hundreds of millions of business opportunities out there. We're in a $173 trillion industry. Our industry is 12% of the global GDP.
No,
12% of the global GDP.
yeah, think about that.
There's there's huge opportunity.
Huge.
Every person, just because they ship freight, doesn't mean they're a good customer for you.
No, no, and there's other options out there, but I have to go back to our friend Greg Cornett, and he said it so well. I can't be wrong. It's the same thing with all these other traffic managers that are out there, supply chain managers, you name it out there, right? Logistics managers. A lot of these guys and women out there cannot be wrong. They're not in the position like they were a couple of years ago where, they can try things out to see if they can get improvement and everything. They can't try anymore. They're not in a position to try. They have to have a fail-safe option there that's going to save their neck and make them look like a hero. And if they happen to hire the wrong person, guess what's going to happen to them? They're going to be out. There's no room for error. And Greg, like I said, I've known Greg for a long time, and it's so true when you think about it. So it's your niche, uncover those options. Those problems and issues that they have, hone in on them, see whether they fit in your wheelhouse. If they don't, move on. If they fit in it, then figure out the solution. Tell them you'll get back to them. Let's have a further conversation. I know that you're busy. I appreciate your time today, and then dig into it, and then start looking into their company and everything, and then uncovering what I call those hidden big opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the new route. Do the work yourself. Sit down and figure out, how do I really help? Like, what is it I do for customers? And if you have customers and you don't know, ask them. Like, what is the thing I do best for you? And maybe your niche is communication, right? There's a lot of companies out there suffering from communication,
Oh yeah.
right? You could sell communication all day long in this industry and make millions, as long as you have effective communication. Yeah, as long as you have communication that's going to help the customer achieve what they want. Maybe it's something else, but something as simple as communication. Companies today will pay a lot of money to make sure things are communicated precisely and on time. It's a fact.
Yeah.
So for you, just figure it out. What is it that you do best? Even better, not say you're new. What do you want to be known for? Like if somebody were to have a conversation and say, "Oh man, if you want somebody that communicates, you gotta call Jeff." Like, these are conversations our customers have at trade shows.
Yeah.
our customers have inside their industries, inside things like Jeff's creating with big groups and like professional organizations. These are the conversations they have. And if you are really good at one thing, you can make millions. What I see is salespeople try to be good at like 15 things. And the fact is, you cannot sell 15 things at once.
No, you cannot.
You can sell one person on one thing at one time. That's it. We,
Yeah, and
as human, our brains only get sold on one thing at one time. When you try to sell 2 and 3 things, you lose the sale.
yeah, and you know
Every
something?
time.
You know something? You brought up something really, really good. And how can you define what you're really good at? So let's just say that you've been in the industry for a while and you have several different clients out there that you've been constantly doing business with. But you really haven't really defined what you were just solving their problems, you know, that they just happen to fall into place and you were either lucky or whatever, and they appreciated it. Send out a how am I doing survey to them. You know, what am I good at? Where am I failing? You know, that will define you rather quickly. Like you were saying, are you good at communication? They might just tell you in that survey. You might say out of 10 clients out there, 7 of them said they love the way that I communicate both email and by phone. Well, there you go. Now you're starting to build, you know, just because, you know, 3 of them didn't say that and they thought something else. Well, at least you have a direction to follow in. So don't be afraid to be creative and create that survey and send it out to your clients to ask those pertinent questions. You'll be surprised. The feedback, what you think you know, you don't know, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can even use what those other 3 said as a sub niche, right? I specialize in communication with cost-effective approaches. You know, Jeff's always been cost-effective. He's always paid attention to market. I solve communication issues with a focus on market visibility for my customers. Right? Niche, sub niche. Now you're covering 2, but the big sell, the big one that you're covering is the top one. I love that. You know, I would even go so far as to say, do the survey yourself. Call the customers.
Yeah.
And if they don't have time, send it in an email. But I would say have the conversation first.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't hurt.
I love that approach.
It definitely does not hurt, you know. And then that basically tells them that you want to be a true partner. Think about it. You know, someone that's not engaging, someone that doesn't really follow up, and all they do is just move the stuff that you give them, and you hardly communicate with them. Well, what's your value? This guy just moves freight, you know, whatever. We can always replace that guy. However, like I said to DJ some time ago, I think the objective of any salesperson is to get entrenched into their operation, bring in their sales and their operation team into any kind of sales related questions or meetings that come up, because now you're collaborating, you're pulling in all those key pieces and you know exactly what's happening, you know, what's coming down the pike, what are they ramping up on, what's your new products, you know, what's the forecast and the budget for the next quarter. You know, all of this is so important to get to where you need to be. So yeah, I mean, it's just, these are things that you really need to know. And when you ask these questions, it shows them that you are a long-term partner and that what they do, you care greatly about, you know, and vice versa. Tell them about your new things that you're doing, you know, or you're bringing on a TMS, or you're bringing on a CRM, you're doing all this kind of stuff. You know, what other value added can you bring to the table, especially if you've been engaged with that customer for 1 or 2 years, you know, bring something new to the table. You know, think about that constantly, because you got to reinvent yourself as a new partner every 6 months. You just can't let it sit there dormant and think that it's going to run by itself. You're going to lose that customer. You're going to lose that customer.
I love that you said that.
You know, just be strategic about it. Don't give everything out of your bag of tricks, you know, because then you're going to run out of value. But if you strategically think about the relationship over time and you start implementing these things, like have a plan, like how you built your business. You created this plan. Here's the steps that I took in order to get to where I am today. Well, how did you get that? Well, I wrote all this stuff. Well, same with the customer. Here I am today. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to learn. And then gauge every month, every quarter, biannually, do your quarter business reviews with them. That engagement is going to reap benefits like more than you could ever know. If you stay dormant, you don't see anything, bye-bye customer, and have fun replacing them.
I would even say give me your whole bag of tricks right away and be creative enough and work hard enough to come up with new bags of tricks. And that will keep you engaged in the business more than anything, because creativity is what we all crave internally. Like we all
Sure.
want to be that solution, and that solution is creativity. So, you're going to have to come up with ideas and strategies that might not be there 3 weeks ago because you just thought of them. You just created them. That's great, brother. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't want to overload your customer. You don't want to overload them with so much stuff that they don't know where to start and they just get frustrated and everything. That's why I'm saying be strategic in what you're offering and what you're asking for. And remember, what you ask for, you're going to get back tenfold. So don't overload it where you're going to be overloaded and now you're going to overpromise and underdeliver. Don't get in that position. That's why I'm saying be very strategic in your approach and how you're engaging your customers so that you can work it on a daily basis, be very comfortable with what you do, and also take care of your other customers. So that's a big part of being an entrepreneur, owning your own business and not overwhelming yourself.
I love that, brother. I love that. Well, we're out of time, but you know what, Jeff? Thank you. I feel good being back. It feels nice to be able to have a
Great
conversation.
to have you back, my
DJ
friend.
couldn't be here this morning. We'll miss him. We'll see him tomorrow. But you know what? Tomorrow's Data Day. Going to be a great one. Hope everybody shows up. And I'll take us out with a quote. And it's interesting that it went this route because I tried to put, when we found out DJ wasn't coming on today, I tried to pull a DJ and come up with a quote before the show. So what it is if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And you don't want to not know where you're going on a phone call, on an interaction, in a show, anything. So that's the quote for today, my friends. We will see you tomorrow.
Have a great day.
In trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing